Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shereen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you tonight. More than 130 people are dead, nearly 100 injured after a recently renovated suspension bridge collapses in Morbi in Gujarat. Civic authorities say the Morbi bridge was reopened ahead of schedule by a private contractor without approval or a fitness certificate. 9 people arrested so far. Bharti Airtel beats estimates in Q2 with a 34% growth in profits. The average revenue per user touches 190 rupees. Infrastructure major Larsen & Toubro also delivers in Q2 with a 23% growth in revenue and profit. Tata Steel's profit is down 90% as rising raw material costs take a toll. Veteran investor Chris Wood says Indian market has shown phenomenal resilience amidst global turbulence. The Lal Street hits the highest level in nearly 2 months. The Sensex gains nearly 800 points. Nifty reclaims 18,000. Insurance regulator the IRDAI writes to market regulator SEBI to examine the fair value and any potential wrongdoing in the Axis Bank Max Life transaction. The IRDAI has already imposed a 5 crore penalty on Axis Bank and Max Life for making undue gains and pricing violations. Just a week after retiring as the chairman of the Competition Commission, A.K. Gupta says big tech must allow other companies to flourish, defends the 2,300 crore rupee penalty imposed on Google over its Play Store rules, asks other tech companies to align their policies and allow third-party billing services. That's an exclusive. The RBI will launch a pilot project to test the digital rupee on the 1st of November for the wholesale segment. The focus will be on settlement of secondary market transactions in government securities. A similar pilot for the retail segment will be launched within a month. Elon Musk starts to ring in changes at Twitter. Reports suggest verified Twitter users with a blue tick could be charged $20 a month as Musk plans to ease the reliance on advertising and move to a subscription-based model. No confirmation yet from Musk or Twitter. Ahead of a global investment summit, Karnataka's chief minister says his government is competing with Silicon Valley and not with other states in India. Promises to clear investments worth 1.5 lakh crore rupees in a month. Brazil's far-right leader Bolsonaro voted out of office after a tumultuous 4-year term. Left-wing leader and former President Lula da Silva returns to lead the country after winning by a slender margin. Bolsonaro is officially yet to concede the election. Well, let's start with the market action. The bulls managing to regain lost ground today. The Sensex gaining nearly 800 points as it approaches the 61,000 mark. Over 200 points to reconquer the 18,000 level is the story for the Nifty today. The banks and mid-caps also rose in tandem with the blue chips, so strong start for our markets today. But the big global event on investors' minds this week is the US Fed meeting. The market is expecting the Fed to raise rates by 75 basis points, and that will be the 4th consecutive time that the Fed does raise rates. This comes after data shows that inflation in the US remains red hot, and the recent GDP data also show that the economy has not slowed down considerably. Here's veteran market investor Chris Wood with what he expects from the Fed and the potential impact on India.
They will fudge that 2% target, and that will be the real signal to buy equities. But if they continue to tighten, that is bearish. Unfortunately, the Fed is still flying blind because the Fed still doesn't pay any attention to broad money supply growth, and broad money supply growth has now collapsed. What's been amazing about India this year as a stock market is its phenomenal resilience in the face of a very weak Wall Street.
That's Chris Wood on what the Fed is likely to do and the Indian market resilience. The rupee has lost more than 30 paise against the dollar today. The Indian currency ended at a one-week low of 82.78 per dollar. An unscheduled meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee will take place on the 3rd of November. Sources say there will be no discussion or a decision even as far as interest rates are concerned. That is not on the agenda. The agenda will be limited to inflation and the letter that the MPC will have to draft to the government explaining why inflation has stayed above the 6% target for 9 months in a row. So that is what the November 3rd meeting is about. This is now a confirmation that CNBC-TV18 has got. Let's now bring you the key earnings today. Revenue growth of 5% in Q2 was above estimates. For Bharti Airtel, profit growth of 34% was largely in line with what the markets were expecting. Margins also expanded to hit 51%. Now, the average revenue per user, the ARPU, has also seen a steady growth to 190 rupees. Speaking with me last year, Sunil Mittal had said that the goal for the company was to achieve an average revenue per user of 200 rupees in the medium term. Airtel seems to be on course to being able to achieve that target. Remember, the numbers came in after the markets closed for trade, so they will react to the earnings tomorrow. But more earnings. Infrastructure major Larsen & Toubro also delivering strong growth in Q2. Vivek is standing by to take us through the L&T report card. Vivek.
Construction major L&T has reported a strong set of numbers as far as its Q2 results are concerned. When you're talking about the revenues have come in close to 42,763 crore, up almost 23% on a year-on-year basis, above our own poll. When you're talking about the EBITDA too has come in above the estimates. EBITDA has come in close to 4,900 crore, up almost 22.6% on a year-on-year basis. Margins have held up quite steady, 11.5%. When you're talking about the profitability, again up almost 22.5% and coming in close to the 2,230 crore mark. The order inflow has been quite encouraging. In fact, if you're talking about the company's order book, the company received total orders worth 51,914 crore at the group level, up almost 23% on a year-on-year basis. This is marginally above what the street was anticipating. So this is something that markets as well, analysts have taken a little bit of positive sentiment from as far as the results are concerned. When you're talking about the company commentary in the press release, the company has said that it appears as though large-scale private sector investments that were looking set to get revived at this point of time may be pushed out a little further. They believe that this is due to the persisting geopolitical as well as global economic turbulence that is currently underway, and they believe on the back of that private sector capex is something that may be pushed out. However, on the positive side, the company's GCC, when you're talking about the Gulf, company gets significant amount of order with as far as construction activity is concerned. They believe that their continued investments are being made, and they believe they continue to benefit from that. They're also saying that some GCC countries are focusing on building non-oil sector capacity, so renewable energy there is also seeing significant trust.
Vivek, many thanks for joining us. That's L&T for you. But let's talk about Tata Steel now, which reported a mixed set of Q2 numbers. Revenue in line with estimates, profits and margins missing the mark. In fact, Tata Steel's net profit down 90% as raw material costs rose sharply by nearly 30%. EBITDA has seen a sharp decline of more than 60%. And this has meant that margins contracted to just 10% compared with more than 27% in Q2 of last year. The big CNBC-TV18 exclusive tonight. The insurance regulator has asked SEBI to examine the fair value and any potential wrongdoing in the Axis Bank Max Life transaction. The insurance regulator, that's the IRDAI, has already imposed a penalty on Axis Bank and Max Life for violating fair value norms in the share transaction. Yash is standing by with the details. Yash, so what exactly is the insurance regulator asking the market regulator to do?
Well, so far it was just the insurance regulator which was examining and assessing the Axis Bank Max Life transaction. There were penalties which were also imposed by IRDAI on both the companies. But now it seems like market regulator SEBI might also want to examine and assess the contours of this deal between Axis Bank and Max Life. That's because what we've been given to understand from our sources is that the insurance regulator has written to market regulator SEBI asking them to examine and investigate the Axis Bank Max Life deal and see if it is in violation with any of the securities laws. Remember, the insurance regulator had pointed out two things. The first one was that the valuation of this particular deal was not uniform to the earlier transactions which happened in Max Life Insurance. And the second one was that the price per share at which this transaction happened, where Axis Bank bought stake in Max Life, was not at fair market value. Now, the same request has been made by the insurance regulator to SEBI to see if there were any violations which were done, if there were any undue gains or benefits which were made out of any sort of violations which happened, and if yes, then who benefited out of these undue gains or violations which took place in this particular transaction. We've written to both regulators involved in this particular development, that is SEBI and IRDAI, and we are yet to receive a reply from either of them.
Yash, many thanks for joining us. Now, India's fiscal deficit has widened to 6.12 lakh crore rupees in the April-September period. This accounts for around 37% of the annual estimates. Total receipts came in at close to 12 lakh crore rupees, while the overall expenditure surpassed last year's figure, coming in at 18 lakh crores. Speaking at a press conference, the Chief Economic Advisor, V. Anantha Nageshwaran, said fiscal consolidation must be the dominant theme with very targeted exceptions. He also called on states and the centre to use asset monetization receipts to trim debt. Take a look.
So fiscal consolidation in that sense has to be the dominant theme, with very, very targeted exceptions, of course, as has been the case since the pandemic started. Debt sustainability is not an issue in my view. Given the higher debt load that we carry, if we can use asset monetization receipts from the union government and the state governments to whittle down that stock of debt, and in the process, if we improve our credit rating and bring down the cost of capital, that would be the best stimulus we can provide to the economy.
Well, that is the Chief Economic Advisor. Now, GST collections for October likely to come in at around 1.5 lakh crore rupees as compared to 1.47 lakh crores in the previous month, with just 3 months left for the union budget. Sources say the tax department is also taking measures to boost government revenue. The department has asked its field formations to refocus efforts on tax collections and share weekly updates for the revised budget estimates. Well, the Reserve Bank of India has announced that it will commence the first pilot of the digital rupee in the wholesale segment tomorrow, and that is the 1st of November. Meanwhile, the pilot for the retail segment will follow a month later. Ritu joins us now to take us through this. Ritu, what are the use cases of this pilot?
Well, starting the 1st of November, the Reserve Bank will launch the first pilot of the much-awaited digital rupee in the wholesale segment, and within a month, it will also commence the first pilot for the retail segment as well. But the use cases are going to be very specific. Now, the use case for the pilot on wholesale e-rupee will be for settlement of secondary market transactions in the government security market. RBI says this is going to make the interbank market more efficient, and settlement in the central bank money will reduce transaction costs by preempting the need for settlement guarantee infrastructure or for collateral to mitigate the settlement risk. Now, going forward, other wholesale transactions and cross-border payments will be the focus of future pilots based on the learnings from this one. 9 banks are expected to participate in this: SBI, Bank of Baroda, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, and other public and private sector banks as well. Now, this is as far as the wholesale e-rupee is concerned. The first pilot in the digital rupee for the retail segment is planned for launch within a month's time. However, this is going to be in select locations, in closed user groups, which will comprise of merchants and customers. But remember, the digital rupee is not to be confused with cryptocurrencies, which of course the RBI remains vehemently opposed to and has expressed concerns about cryptocurrencies several times in the past, saying they don't have underlying value and they're essentially just speculative in nature. The CBDC, on the other hand, is merely the digital form of the rupee or the sovereign currency we have, and it holds those advantages as well, that is safety, liquidity, settlement finality, and of course, most importantly, trust.
Ritu, many thanks for joining us. So the first phase of the pilot kicks off tomorrow. Watch out for that. Ashok Kumar Gupta, who recently retired as the chairman of the Competition Commission of India, has justified the imposition of penalties worth 2,300 crores on Google for allegedly abusing its dominant market position. In an interview with our colleague Parikshit Luthra, Gupta said that the competition regulator intends to maintain a competitive landscape. He said that big tech companies should take a cue from the Google episode and align their policies accordingly. Take a look.
The job of the Competition Commission of India is to keep the landscape competitive so that innovations can take place and consumers are benefited. Both our orders are opening the ecosystem. We have given behavioral remedies now, and these behavioral remedies are a sort of guidelines for other big tech players. So if they are also indulging in similar behavior, then similar type of remedies can come in those cases also. I think they can get a cue from these behavioral remedies and align their business practices and system accordingly.
Well, that is the former CCI chief. Now, days after taking over Twitter, Elon Musk seems to be bringing in changes at the social media platform. Reports suggest that verified Twitter users with a blue tick could be charged $20 a month. This is in sync with Musk's plans to ease the reliance on advertising and move to a subscription-based model. But none of this has been confirmed either by Musk or by Twitter. Silvana Henao gets us more on the big changes that are being talked about at Twitter.
Busy it has been for Elon Musk because he's denying reports he's planning to lay off Twitter employees prior to November 1st to avoid stock grants due to staffers that day. Now, the New York Times reported over the weekend Musk ordered the cuts across the company, with some teams getting hit harder than others, and that layoffs would take place before November 1st, when employees were scheduled to receive stock grants as part of their compensation package. Elsewhere, Elon Musk says Twitter is revising its user verification process without giving additional details. But according to multiple reports, Twitter is considering charging users for the blue check mark at $4.99 a month, with one report saying the fee could be as high as $19.99 a month. This forcing users to pay up for verification may be coming at just the right time as advertisers begin to rethink their future plans to work with Twitter. Late Friday, General Motors said it's temporarily halting paid advertising on the platform as it, quote, engages with Twitter to understand the direction of the platform under new ownership. And speaking of new directions, Elon Musk is also considering bringing back Vine. That's the viral short video app shut down by Twitter back in 2016 as a possible TikTok competitor. Musk polling followers on the idea and already garnering more than 1.6 million votes.
Sylvia, appreciate you joining us. And speaking of Twitter, the Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, told CNBC-TV18 the government expects from Twitter that they will follow the regulations in India regardless of the change in Twitter's leadership. Chandrasekhar also said that Twitter must align with India's rules, that the government will be unrelenting in its ask. Take a look.
The government of India, our expectations and our duty to our citizens remains intact, remains consistent regardless of who owns company A or company B. Our expectations are of openness, safety and trust and accountability. And I hope that those expectations are expectations that are aligned to companies who do business in India. And if they don't, they have to align to those expectations.
That is Rajiv Chandrasekhar. The big story nationally, at least 130 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after a footbridge in Gujarat's Morbi district unexpectedly collapsed into the river. Over 100 people are being treated in hospitals while many still remain missing. Now, this bridge was opened to the public by a company called Oriva Group, a popular clock manufacturer, which had won the contract to repair and maintain the bridge. Madhya Mujawar reports on the many unanswered questions staring at authorities. And I must warn you, some of the visuals that you will see in this news report are distressing.
These are CCTV visuals of the ill-fated suspension bridge seconds before it collapsed into the river in Gujarat's Morbi. According to reports, more than 400 people were standing on the bridge before the tragedy. Early visuals of the collapse showed people sliding on the bridge and hundreds shouting in the dark for help. Majority of those killed were children, women and elderly.
सभी पानी में गिर जाएंगे, वो सब लोग सामने से गिर रहा है, हम भी गिर जाएंगे, ऐसा हमको लगता है। और हमने ऊपर वाली दया से झाड़ी पकड़ ली और रखा। हम 3 आदमी थे, 3 फ्रेंड थे, एक ये है, एक मैं है और एक ऑफ हो गया।
The 19th century bridge, looked after by the Morbi civic body, was closed for 6 months for repairs. Gujarat-based Oriva Group was given the contract to repair, maintain and operate the bridge for 15 years. The company had imposed a fee of 12 to 17 rupees to avoid overcrowding. Eyewitnesses of the tragedy say there was no crowd control either by the company or municipal officials. The civic body says the contractor did not have the approval or a fitness certificate to open the bridge to the public. But the civic authorities are silent when asked how a private company was allowed to open a bridge to the public for 4 days and no action was taken against them.
किसी भी व्यक्ति के विरुद्ध में कड़क से कड़क पगला लेने के उद्देश्य से मोरबी पुलिस द्वारा 304, 308 और आईपीसी की 114 मुजब की धाराओं के तहत इसमें गुना दाखिल किया गया।
The state government has set up a 5-member committee to probe the incident. Police department has filed an FIR against the agency responsible for maintenance of the bridge and people involved in the management. However, the FIR doesn't mention any person from the Oriva Group. 9 people have been arrested so far for alleged role in the collapse.
ये फरियाद दर्ज करने का मतलब ये है कि सभी विषयों पे एकदम गंभीरतापूर्वक तपास हो और ये तहकीकात के बाद इसमें जो कोई लोग ये विषय के अंदर शामिल है, उन सभी लोगों पे सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई की जाए। इसके लिए ही ये हाई पावर कमेटी और एक क्रिमिनल केस दोनों दर्ज किए गए हैं।
A joint rescue operation by the NDRF, SDRF, Air Force, Army, Navy, Fire Brigade and other departments has been underway since last night. The injured are treated in several hospitals across the district. Prime Minister Modi, who is in Gujarat since yesterday, has expressed deep anguish over the incident. He will visit Morbi tomorrow.
दुख की इस घड़ी में सरकार हर तरह से पीड़ित परिवारों के साथ है।
Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge, who took charge of the party last week, urged local leaders to aid in rescue ops. He also demanded a high-level inquiry headed by retired Supreme Court or High Court judge.
इसका सारा एक इंक्वायरी होना चाहिए, खास करके अगर रिटायर्ड हाई कोर्ट या सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज के नेतृत्व में इसको करना चाहिए.
While the blame game continues on who should be held guilty for this criminal negligence, there's no word from the contractor Oriva Group so far. The company specializes in wall clocks, electric bikes and CFL bulbs. The company's website did not have any information on its activities in construction or infrastructure projects. In Mumbai, Madiha Mujawar.
A horrific tragedy there and many unanswered questions. There is need for accountability to understand how this was allowed to happen. Time for us to end to a short break, but Brazil's far-right leader Bolsonaro voted out of office after a tumultuous 4-year term. Former President Lula da Silva returns to lead the country. That and more when we get back. In other headlines, the government has extended the deadline for stakeholders to give their feedback on the draft telecom bill yet again. The new deadline is now the 10th of November. The draft telecom bill recognizes internet-based communication services like messaging, emails and video calling as telecom services as well. The government-appointed Committee on Domestic Gas Pricing has sought more time to submit its report. The Kirit Parikh-led panel says it is still in the process of receiving submissions from various stakeholders. It's likely to take 7 to 10 more days to finalize its report. The government has sought more time from the Supreme Court to respond to pleas challenging the constitutional validity of Section 124A of the Indian Penal Code, which deals with sedition. The Attorney General of India told the Chief Justice-led bench that something may happen in the upcoming winter session, suggesting that the government could bring in legislation. Remember, this is a reiteration of the government's position from May. Karnataka Chief Minister Bommai is confident about the upcoming Global Investment Summit. He told my colleague Ritu Singh that Karnataka is competing with Silicon Valley and not with other Indian states when it comes to investment. He said the state can clear investments amounting to 1.5 lakh crore rupees within a month. Take a look.
See, I welcome a healthy competition, number one. But my competition is not with the other states. We are far ahead. My competition is with the Silicon Valley and other international things. Second thing is, it is not just the land building which makes up the industry. As I have already said, technology, highly skilled human resources, and a very good cosmopolitan culture. So all this counts.
Well, that's the Chief Minister of Karnataka. The big international story. Lula da Silva is back at the helm of Brazilian politics 4 years after he was imprisoned on alleged corruption charges and shunned into political wilderness. The veteran politician has voted out far-right Bolsonaro in a runoff presidential election. Abhishek Datta Roy and Kiran Khatri bring us the latest.
Que quer salário igual ao hobby, deve ter da mesma função.
Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the firebrand leftist leader and former two-time president, will be getting yet another shot at the top office of Latin America's largest economy. This after he defeated his rival and incumbent Brazilian president Jair Bolsonaro in a runoff in what was the culmination of perhaps the most polarizing election campaign. As per the country's election authority, Lula secured 50.8% of the votes compared to Bolsonaro's 49.2%. Lula's rise to power marks a stunning political resurrection. The former president was sentenced to 22 years in jail in 2018 on corruption and money laundering charges, barring him from running from office. His conviction was later overturned. He has vowed to rebuild Brazil from what he calls the irresponsible and criminal administration of the far-right incumbent Bolsonaro. He has promised a return to state-driven economic growth.
Esta não é uma vitória minha nem do PT.
This isn't a victory of mine or the Workers' Party, nor the parties that supported me in campaigns. It's the victory of a democratic movement that formed above political parties, personal interests and ideologies, so that democracy came out victorious.
Ideologias para que a democracia saísse vencedora.
Bolsonaro, during his tempestuous 4-year tenure, received widespread criticism for his handling of the COVID pandemic, his efforts to undermine democratic institutions, and the surging deforestation in the Amazon. He remains the first ever incumbent president in Brazil's modern democratic history to lose a re-election. He would, however, draw solace from the fact that he still remains an icon amidst the far right, the evangelicals, the business, and farming lobbies. That's not all. The Brazil National Congress is dominated by right-wing lawmakers who may act as a bulwark for Lula's policies in the future.
Well, the big change there in Brazil. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news continues here on CNBC-TV18.